At the start of the Strategy Structure course, I present a systems model of an organization called the complex hologram. Even though we concentrate on the formal systems in this model, we must always take into account that strategy structure and the reward system remain closely interconnected with all the other systems and processes that are inside and outside the organization. In the first section of the course, I remind you of the 8 tracks of quantum transformation, which are the means to transform all barriers to success into channels for success, as shown by all the systems and processes in the complex hologram. Even though this course will focus on the 4th track of the 8-track program, to be true to the complex hologram, we must always keep in mind why it's so important to implement the 3 tracks that are positioned before the strategy structure track, as well as the several tracks that need to be implemented after the strategy structure track. In the next section, Understanding Strategy Structure, I begin with these questions. Why do we need formal documents? How do we use these documents? And what are the key principles and action steps for creating useful documents for all organizational members? Regarding formal documents, strategy answers this question: where are we headed? Structure answers this question: how are we organized to get there? But if the answers to these 2 questions are based on outdated, false assumptions about key stakeholders, anything else that members do will be irrelevant and thus ineffective. In the following section of the course, I introduce the simple but powerful concept of Strategy Structure Links, or SST links for short, which emphasizes that every member must have a direct line of sight between his daily job and the long-term vision of the organization. Without designing clear and precise SST links, it'll be most difficult for people to add maximum value to their organization. I next define the cellular unit of an organization as a union of objectives, tasks, and people, all of which are contained within a well-defined boundary. As an organization grows from a single cell into something larger, it divides into an arrangement of bounded subunits, each of which contains a subset of objectives, tasks, and people. The well-defined boundary around any subunit, such as a division, department, or workgroup, is firmly established when the subunit is assigned various resources and the legitimate authority to make decisions and take action. Then I address the complex problem of how to design subunit boundaries. In other words, we must determine which particular subset of objectives, tasks, and people should be assigned to each subunit in the organization. Here I discuss why subunit boundaries are not cast in stone, but are, once again, rooted in hidden, usually false assumptions about how to best organize workflow for today's world. Said differently, the glaring indicator that subunit boundaries are thwarting long-term success is when members can only get their assigned tasks done by having to spend most of their time interacting with those in other subunits in the organization, rather than being able to complete their assigned tasks by getting what they need from their coworkers within their own workgroup. By containing certain kinds of task flow within boundaries, and by letting another kind of task flow fall between the cracks, members will then have the necessary authority and resources to get their work done efficiently and effectively within their own subunit. In a summary section called Aligning the Organization for Long-Term Success, I define 3 interfaces that beautifully demonstrate the clear and precise line of sight that the formal systems must provide all members: the strategic interface, the structural interface, and the job interface. It's not enough to properly link 1 or even 2 of these interfaces. Instead, all 3 interfaces must always be fully aligned, since a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Based on everything we've covered in the previous courses on conflict management and change management, I describe why a problem management organization, called a PMO for short, is necessary, first to formulate the best strategy structure, and second, to effectively implement these revised formal systems throughout an organization. To facilitate this process of redesigning the formal systems, I provide a set of worksheets for exploring the entire forest of strategy structure gaps for the 10 to 30 members of a problem management organization. Here we typically form 4 ad hoc groups based on the 4 personality types, ST, NT, SF, and NF. By the way, we form each ad hoc group around a different personality type in order to ensure that nothing gets overlooked in the large forest of strategy structure decision trees. In the next section of the course, organizing the SST groups, a number of conclusion groups, or C groups as they are called, will be formed to further investigate a unique set of strategy structure gaps. Another set of worksheets is provided in the course manual so each C group can develop into a well-functioning team, which includes formulating its mission and operating plan. Then, in the section Closing Strategy Structure Gaps, a third set of worksheets is provided so the community of C groups can perform a thorough assumptional analysis on the most complex and important SST gaps that were identified. Since the strategic plan and the structural design of subunits must be able to satisfy the current and future needs of the organization's internal and external stakeholders, we can't take the chance that any aspect of strategy structure is based on false assumptions, which would further perpetuate misguided and confused documents, which would then lead to inefficient and ineffective organizational behavior. As I noted before, all 3 interfaces, the strategic interface, the structural interface, and the job interface, must be fully aligned and effectively deployed so all members are on the same page, making decisions and taking action in the same direction. By the way, you can take our strategy structure course and fully benefit from its lessons without first having to take our other courses. Although the ideal approach is to take our online courses in the recommended sequence, if you haven't yet taken Advanced Training in Conflict Management and our Critical Thinking course, don't worry. I provide a brief review of the 5 steps and eras of problem management, as well as a brief review of the 3 stages of assumptional analysis, so you'll have the necessary background to successfully learn and deeply appreciate the highly participative PMO process for redesigning the formal systems in any organization.